Hi there. Yeah, I've been working on this helicopter for the last 3 years. It's about 8 hours a week. Sometimes Benny and I will come in here on both days on the weekend, wives permitting. I was contacted about 3 years ago to see if I would be interested in restoring this bird. I have World War II restoration under my belt. I was involved with 3 restorations over at the Quonset Air Museum in Quonset Point, Rhode Island. That's no longer in business. So when they found out that our restorers were available, I was one of the first ones to sign up. It's my first helicopter restoration. When I first got here, it was just a big hunk of aluminum. But over the 3 years, this thing's taken on a personality. It's kind of pretty nice friendship we have going here with this helicopter. One of the major problems with restoration for a nonprofit organization is funds to get parts. And we're very limited as to what parts we can get. And so I make them. I have a small machine shop at home. All my skills were taught, I learned at Quonset Air Museum by watching World War II veterans. And by the time that closed, I was the head machinist at Quonset. So this was my first big piece. This is the horizontal stabilizer. It fits right in there. It's like a wing. And let me just stand up here for a second, move some parts. This is the condition of the original skin to this wing, let's say. It was in very rough shape. We had even a bird's nest inside of it. So I took it home. Rich Angelini, who you've already met, was instrumental in getting the rivets, the right rivets, and the right aluminum, and working in my backyard on the picnic table every night after work. Lo and behold, we have one that's, some people say it looks like it's flight worthy. I wouldn't fly in an aircraft on anything I made. But, so, this is the condition of this, some of the equipment on this helicopter that we had to deal with. This is actually an antenna. A lot of people think that when they see this right here, like this, they think that's a handhold, and there'll be something that do not touch. So Rich was also instrumental in getting 2 new ones of these. They're in deep storage up on the battleship. We have a lot of parts. We have new miniguns that were donated by the manufacturer, Dillon Aerospace, I believe. They're exact replicas, so those are brand new. We have the original rocket pods, or I should say a mock-up of the original rocket pods. I'm not a weapons guy, so don't ask me what type of rockets they are or what type of guns. That's Benny's job. So my latest piece is this little window stop that I had to make. By removing it, I had to destroy it to get the measurements off of it. So in my machine shop, I made this in a couple of nights. Actually, oh yeah. So in your car, you have a crank, or nowadays you just have a button that you push. But they didn't have that in these helicopters. So this actually just goes, nope, not like that. Let me get this right. Here we go. And it's just a little bolt that you unscrew, you move the window, and you tighten it back up. Now it's a sports car. Yeah, now it's a sports car. So my first part that I actually redid was we had to get new skids. They had the new skids before I showed up for the first time. So the helicopter, when I first got here, was kind of sitting on a tilt. This skid right here was totally disintegrated halfway through. So it wasn't supporting the aircraft at all. And the other one was almost as bad. So we replaced that. And these are the brackets that hold this piece onto the helicopter itself. And these are the better ones that we found. There was one that was totally disintegrated. It disappeared. So I made some out of steel because I didn't have any aluminum, but the ones on there are aluminum now. So these are my first prototypes of what I had to do. There is some battle damage on this helicopter. It was shot at 6 times. It has battle damage from 6 incidents through its 5 years in Vietnam. One time it was shot down. There was one wounded soldier, and if anyone knows how to get that name of that wounded soldier, please contact me, because I would really like to know who it was. And I'd like to put his name on the aircraft, if that's allowed. I have to talk with our pilots over here. So when it got shot down, what was the date of that? That was January 21st of '68. They were able to make some field repairs, the crew, the onboard crew, and they flew her back to the base. I believe it was July. Okay, and they made permanent repairs. And then just about a year later, she got shot down again. And they got shot right in the engine, so they couldn't make repairs, and they airlifted her out, I believe back to July, and then from there she went to Texas to get rebuilt, and then she was sent back to Vietnam in another squadron, the 135th, thank you, where she spent the rest of the war with. And then after that she spent some time with a bunch of National Guard units, and then eventually ended up here. A lot of the panels, like when I first got here, actually let me start in the back and I'll move my way forward. This tail rotor shaft, when I got here, it was basically flopping in the breeze. The bearings were gone, they were shot. And I noticed that kids in the previous museum that I was with, kids always wanted to spin that prop, so the rotor blades. So what I did was I put it so those tail rotor blades will be like this permanently. That shaft does not spin, but it also doesn't flop in the breeze. That's one of the worst things you can do, is have parts moving to the weather, because they're just going to wear out, and once they wear out, they let water in, which mixes with dust, which forms dirt and mud, and then eventually corrosion. So another thing that happened to this helicopter along its way was a lot of the drain holes were plugged up. I guess someone thought that they didn't want insects to get inside the helicopter, and by plugging that up, it flooded the inside. So basically I have to replace the whole floor pan. That's going to be a job in itself. Let's see. The Stinger has been redone. I have all the panels up here that were redone. I wanted to bring them down, but I just ran out of time. There's a light. This is where a light goes. I wish I had that. I wanted to bring it down from the battleship, and it's in deep storage. That was something. That was a nice little project for me. It's basically similar to the tail lights that are on the Cobra. If you look, it's like a little cone that sticks out of the tail. I made one from scratch. It just you can't buy these parts anymore, so I just made it out of fiberglass. This cover that is here, I tried making one. It's a little bit more difficult than I thought. So Rich is trying to buy one right now. It was broken. I don't think it was broken from any battle damage or anything like that. I think it was just ice falling from the bridge above. And it was a lot worse shape than this one. Benny, the panel that's here is in the wood shop?
Yep.
Yeah, we spent the winter inside the battleship, freezing. It was so cold in there as we were stripping paint. Just because of bad weather, Benny and I, we don't quit. We worked right through the winter, right through the cold. As long as it's not snowing on top of us, we'll be working. This is the color of the aircraft that I found. It's got a lot more brown in it than green. I really don't think this is the color that it's supposed to be in. It is? Well, you weren't in Vietnam.
Ask them.
Yeah, is that the color? It's a darker, yeah, more green. As I stripped some paint, I did find a darker green. The whole tail I stripped with chemical stripper right down to the zinc chromate. The zinc chromate is industry-wide, aircraft industry-wide preservative. It's like a primer, but it's put on electrostatically. So the paint stripper, it wouldn't touch it. So that's a good thing. Moving on. Benny likes this story. There's rollers that this door slides on. And I'm a pack rat. My wife is always after me about, why do you need that? Well, someday I'm going to use it. No. We redid our kitchen. We had brass knobs on our cabinet doors. So I put them in a bucket, put them on a shelf up at my garage. And this was long before I even thought about working on a helicopter. So I needed something to make those rollers, and lo and behold, I grabbed those bolts. So as soon as I made my first roller out of brass for this helicopter, I ran into the living room and said, "See, hon, I told you I was going to have to make this, or I was going to be able to use these." So let's see. Moving forward, the door, basically, that was just stripping of the paint and primer. And then moving more forward, we're going to come all the way down here. Oh, excuse me, Benny. This was a difficult piece to make for someone without a lot of sheet metal tools. As you can see right here, that's solid, but the aluminum is very, very thin. Well, this was right up inside there like that, but it was broken. And it was repaired with a lot of auto body filler. And I do not like that, because auto body filler is something that you have to maintain. So I made one of these, and we're in the process of redoing this damage that was done. It's still being held in place with these Cleco fasteners. These are temporary fasteners for when you're riveting. We still have the masking tape on the other side from some fresh primer. My next big project, or I should say our next big project for this, is removing the tail rotor and the transmission. The transmission is just falling to pieces. It's actually crumbling. Every time the wind blows, that mast moves, and it takes another piece with it. So we have new rotor blades. They're in that long container right there. We have a new transmission. And so I'm looking for someone that has access to a forklift, because that's what it's going to take to try and get this out. My brother-in-law has one, but he camps every weekend, so he's not going to bring it down here. You'll see some more these control arms. I don't know what they are called because I'm not a helicopter guy. But we do have new ones. And so what the plan is to get this helicopter looking like it should, like it was exactly the way it was when it was in the muskets on the outside. Then Benny and I are going to move to that helicopter, and we're going to get the outside of that looking the way it was in Vietnam. And then once that's done, we're going to come over here and we're going to gut the entire interior and restore it. I have to rip out the floor because there's a lot of corrosion. And that's about it. Does anybody have any questions about what's going on? Ooh, lunch. Well, once we get the pay... Huh? Yeah, the way I restore aircraft with the amount of hours, I mean, once I retire, I'll probably be able to put 40 hours in, but with the limited hours that we have, it's maybe 7, 8 years, because it's really tough working out here in the winter. I don't like working in the rain. I don't like working in the snow. Any other questions? And we were fortunate to recently, we received an $85,000 grant from the state of Massachusetts to put a hangar for both helicopters right where you folks are standing. And it's going to be an immersive display. It's going to be the music from Vietnam. There'll probably be some graffiti on the inside. We want to make it look like it looks in Vietnam. So if that's it, I would love to turn it over to, we have 3 pilots that flew with the muskets over there. Yeah, I'm going to hand this over to Rich.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to Claude. Claude's done a lot of work on this. I'm not sure if Claude talked about the rocket pods and the miniguns, so that was a great coup for us as well. Claude's very excited. We're glad to have gotten him, and Benny as well. Benny's hiding over there. They're great aircraft mechanics. But if I can introduce the Minutemen, if you guys could step over here real quick. So these gentlemen actually flew combat missions in Vietnam with Hueys in the same unit when 609 was with the muskets. They were out of Tu Lai. We have Wayne, Barry, and Lee.
You're the ranking officer.
And by the way, Wayne is also, Minuteman 23. He's doing a book signing with his book. It's an excellent book about Hueys. It's about combat in Vietnam, about flying and what it's like to be a young kid in Vietnam. He's doing a book signing. His books are available all day today. And we also have to say that for the helicopter war, we're doing Vietnam, the helicopter war. Where we're standing right now is going to be a giant hangar, 40 by 70 feet. It's going to be immersive, as Claude said. And as Claude always says, we certainly appreciate donations if anybody would like to do so. But I'll hand it over to the pilots. They can say a few words about Hueys and what it was like to serve in Vietnam. And then we're also at 10:30, we're going to be doing a Veterans Forum in the PT Boat Museum. They'll be giving a 15-minute brief each about their service in Vietnam and what it was like to be there. Okay, thank you.
My name is Lee Pistone. You hear it? Yeah. Yep. Okay, my name is Lee Pistone. I had 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. One was on the ground with Special Forces, and I got religion and went to flight school and became one of these guys. Ended up flying for my 2nd tour of duty, and I flew with the 174th Dolphins for about 3 or 4 months, and then I got transferred to the 176 Minutemen, and I was the 1st platoon leader in the Minutemen. And that's basically it for me. These guys had more experience than I did because I was they used to call them an RLO, real live officer. These guys were warrant officers that did the majority of the flying. So, Barry, you're up.
I'm up. I'm Barry Lamkin. My whole thing was I was in Vietnam. I was a 19-year-old warrant officer. Had given up a scholarship to Worcester Polytech to go fly helicopters. Sounded a lot cool to do. Spent 6.5 months in Nam, 650 hours flying, and only 100 bullet holes in my helicopters. But only 2 of them hit me, so I have a 98% success factor. That's the end. And this was my co-pilot. The day we got shot up, the last time with 67 holes, the 2 of them hit me, and he had to take the helicopter back to drop me off at the hospital pad, and then he wrote this book. But whatever. You shouldn't have taken off from the helicopter pad. You should have shut it down on the pad, but that's beside the point.
I'll go with this one. I'm Wayne Chasson, Vietnam 68 to 70. A little like Barry, I went off to school, University of Pittsburgh. They asked me to leave. I said I would. Went home to Newton Junior College. They asked me to leave. I said I would. And then the Army said, you can go to University of Vietnam and you'll get all the training you need right there. So was off to flight school. From flight school, 10 days off, then into Vietnam, Chu Lai with the 176th. I flew, as Barry did, what we called slicks. And a slick was a Huey that did everything. Combat assaults, photo recon, medevac, bringing in donut dollies or Red Cross workers. No matter what it was, a Huey could do it. And then so there was, I've been in country at the time 4 or 5 months, something like that. And I was flying with Barry, first time we ever flew together. And I had been working this particular area, which is called Tin Phuc. It's pronounced a little differently if you're a combat veteran. But I had been in the area and gone through like 2 or 3 helicopters as the co-pilot. So this one particular day, I'm flying with Barry. We had an easy milk run in the morning. I think it was the 1st or the 6th. We sat down for lunch, and now I'm briefing the crew, saying this is what's going to happen, and this is what we should do when we get shot down. And Barry's like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm telling you, I've been in this area, and this is not going to be good. But if we've got a plan, we got a shot. So we take off, and we go into this area. Barry had a brilliant idea. I thought, I'm saving that one for the bank. The way I remember it, and Barry's a little different, he called...
50 years of change, you know.
We had... we were doing a resupply and trying to do a medevac at the same time. So the unit was under contact over here. We had gunship coverage. And so Barry had them pop smoke like 1,000 meters away. And then we were going to fly into that like that was the area, maybe trick the enemy, and then sneak over to the other place with the gunships telling us how far we had to go. So we're flying along, and they said, you got 1,000 meters, 500 meters, 200 meters, and the next thing I hear, they said, you've gone too far. So Barry yanks back the cyclic, helicopter goes up like this. Now we're only 20 feet off the trees, and with that, all the VC, because I don't think I can say the other word. I can't. All come out of their little spider holes, and they start just blowing the bejesus out of us. Now, you have to picture this. The co-pilot does nothing. He just sits there, and he's along for the ride. Barry's the aircraft commander, so he's in charge of everything. So the co-pilot just kind of follows the controls along because they're very sensitive. Your feet are on the floor because the pedals are super sensitive. With that, Barry gets hit. I get hit, but it hit my chicken plate. I get some shrapnel in the leg and the hand.
Chicken plate is the armor that we wore on our chest. That's why they call it a chicken.
And it worked. So Barry gets hit. So right away, I've got now something to do. I grab the controls. Now I'm cool. I'm John Wayne. I can do this. No problem. I'm trying to tell the guys in the back, get the stuff out. Trying to get the wounded guys on board. Gunships are yelling, get out of there, get out of there. And I'm thinking, well, you don't have to tell me twice, you know. So I come around. I start taking out. I could have gone to a special forces camp, but I thought, no, Barry's hurt pretty bad, and I'm going to make it back to the hospital. So I start flying out, and the helicopter's flying sideways like this, which is not a good thing. So I'm thinking my tail rotor's been shot out, I got fixed pedal or whatever. So we pass over a 50 cal location. Gunships are still yelling, but I can't hear anything at this point. And I look down, and my feet are still flat on the floor. I never put them on the pedals. So I look around as though, is anybody looking? And I picked my feet up and I put them on the pedals, and the helicopter went choop, like it was nothing wrong with it. And
the reason that he took over the helicopter because a bullet through my foot allowed me not to put my feet on the pedals.
Right. So that was it. We get back to the hospital, get Barry into the hospital. I then fly the helicopter back to our base. We get back to the base, and everybody comes out because it's all full of holes and this and that and blood and this and that. And everybody saying, hey, great job, and this and that. Oh, thanks, that's really good. And the colonel comes out, and he looks at the helicopter. He looks at me. He looks at the helicopter again. And then he said, what the hell were you thinking? You should have left the helicopter there. Well, I was like 20 years old. I didn't know any better, so I said, oh, sorry. He said, don't let it happen again. And I said, you can guarantee that. And
So
that's my
there were
story.
67 holes in that helicopter, and a lot of them through the tail boom. The device up there, there's push-pull tubes that connect the rotor system to the engine and the transmission. One of the 67 holes was dead center through that push-pull tube. I know this because the camera that I left in the helicopter, somebody was nice enough to take pictures of the helicopter and send it home to me. So that is aluminum push-pull tube with a dead center bullet hole that could have severed any time on the flight back or off the friggin' hospital pad.
He is
and
correct.
the whole rotor system would have come out. So my view is just slightly different, but almost the same. It's the routine, but the popping the smoke initially to see where the wind was good. And then we flew across the top at about 2,000 feet, dropped out to the east with the gunships on our tail, and they were giving the vectors and tell me how far from the zone. I called the grunts on the ground and asked them to pop smoke a second time that way, because the first time I saw the smoke come straight up, no wind. So I figured the smoke's going to come up. I'm going to be on the treetops doing 120 or 125. Yeah. That was that red line. But going across the treetops, they said smoke's on the way. When the gunship said you're coming up on the zone, and I put the tail down, so I came up on the trees on the other side of the landing zone, my nose up like this, trying to stop the helicopter. I'm looking down, and the smoke is just starting to burn in the LZ. So the grunts on the ground waited to hear my rotor blades, which is very distinctive, rather than popping the smoke when we first called for it. I think that was where we all went bad. So as I settled down into the LZ, I'm looking at the trees, and there's a lot of guys in black pajamas looking at me. And so it seemed like maybe hours, but I think it was like maybe 30 seconds. Very quiet. And then everything broke loose. Bullets flying everywhere, plexiglass everywhere. There were 2 holes in the windshield on either side of my head. One went across my neck. And there was 2 holes in the windshield of Wayne's windshield, I believe. And all the instruments were knocked out. And you had plexiglass in your legs and everything else. Things were knocked out. So I had to hold then I got hit in the foot. The foot came off the pedals, and I'm trying to control it. I hit the intercom. So because the damn thing is so damn noisy, you have an intercom in there to have to talk to each other, even though you're only 3 feet away. I hit the intercom, and I say, Wayne, I've been shot. Let's get out of here. And he's, like you say, he's got on the controls, but nothing's moving. And I hit the intercom again, and I think the intercom was knocked out because I don't think you heard me.
Right, the wire to my helmet was shot out.
Right, so he couldn't hear me, so I reached across, and I hit him. I've been hit. Let's get out. He goes, okay. And he grabbed the controls, somewhere like that. I yell to the grunts in the back that I've been hit. Get me out of here. So on the back of these seats, there should be a little red tab that will release the armored seat so we can roll back into the cargo compartment. So they roll me back into the cargo compartment. I'm still connected with my headset. And I called the gunships. I said, I've been hit. We're getting out. And they said, as soon as you're clear, we'll cover you. And as Wayne's still shuddering in the LZ, I could feel it's trying to get up through translational lift. And as we get just above the tree lines, all of a sudden rockets are going in underneath us. And I could feel the percussion of the rockets. And I think that's what put you into translational lift and got us going. And then we went back. We're flying back. That's when the pain in the foot starts to hurt. Pulled off the boot. Oh, the grunts pulled up. No, first, before they rolled me out of the seat, they said, sir, it's nothing. It's just a scratch. I says, not the neck, foot, with little adjectives involved there. And so they pulled it, they were flying back, they pull off the boot, and it turns out their AK-47 armor-piercing round has a lead center, right? So when I guess it hit the chin bubble, and then went dead center on the pedals, which probably ripped off the casing, and came through my foot, broke my foot, and the tongue of my boot stopped the bullet. It was going that slow at that point in time. So when they pulled out the bullet, I had the bullet in my hand. We got to the hospital pad. They put me in a wheelchair. When the doc says, what do you got there? I says, oh, the bullet. So he put it in my ditty bag. That made it home with me, but disappeared over the last 20 or 30 years. I think kids rolling through my house decided it was a good souvenir, but it's gone with the Purple Heart. Okay, Sarah, Sarah. Oh, yeah, and then the general comes in and says, hey, congratulations, here's your Purple Heart. I got a Purple Heart on my pillow, all that shit. Send it to Japan for 2 weeks. I'm in there, and I'm rolling around in the wheelchair, and the doc says, we're going to keep you here for a couple of weeks. I'm going to send you home. I says, home this way or home that way? He says, back to the States. I says, really? He said, yeah. So I rolled down in the chair. I says, hey, I want to call Boston, Massachusetts collect. So my mom was hit, not very bad, but for the next 2 weeks before I got back, she kept calling every senator and every representative saying, what's wrong with him? How bad is it? It was just, $1 million wound to get me out of country. That's it.
There's plenty more. We could go on for hours, but right, going on to the next session, and any questions, we're available.
We're going to trade them. So, folks, we're going to have a veterans forum with these three gentlemen, plus a gentleman from the destroyer Warrington when she was hit by 2 mines off Vietnam. That will be at 10:30 in the PT Boat Museum. It will be they'll provide a brief overview of their history and service in Vietnam, and then there'll be a question and answer session for respectful questions to our veterans. We know this is an exciting time to be able to talk to people that were there. So feel free to enjoy the reenactments. There's guided tours on the destroyer Kennedy today by destroyer veterans that served during the Vietnam War. And then once again, 10:30, we have chairs set up. We'll have that session. We're going to let these gentlemen have a drink of water. And also, don't forget Wayne's signing books for his 176 unit.
Chapter 15.
He's in Chapter 15. And it's an excellent opportunity if you want autographs. You can probably get all 3 of the 176 guys here today to sign that book. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you at 10:30 on the other side of that big green PT boat. Thank you.